Hello and welcome to 5-Minute Math. Today we are looking at the 8th grade concept of modeling slope-intercept form. This is standard 8.5i in the great state of Texas, and we are using item number 31, which is a new item type called hot text off the Redesign Practice Online STAAR test. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and take a moment to pause the video, work this problem out on your own, unpause it, and we will look at our answers together. So it looks like we have a linear relationship here, so that's going to be very important, and they even name it for us. It's slope-intercept form. So if we don't remember what that is, right, the linear equations are going to be y equals mx plus b, y equals kx for direct variation, but they tell us it's the first one, slope-intercept form, and in case we need it, that slope of a line, m equals change in y over change in x. So we're going to need the first and the third equations there, because we need to move the correct answer into each box. So this is our slope-intercept form. So what we have here is this is going to be our slope that we're missing, and that b is going to be our y-intercept. And you notice this is going to be hot text, so once I use an answer, I can't use it again. If I tried to answer it with just one answer, it is going to have an error message because I need to answer both. So now that we know what we're looking at, let's do this. Y equals mx plus b, and you know what? Let's find that slope first. So what did we get from our reference materials? It's the rise over run, so that's the change in y over the change in x. And it really doesn't matter which set of x's and which set of y's you use, as long as you find ones that are paired together and use them correctly. So I'm just going to say I'm going to use these two y's, so I'll make that my y2, my y1, and I just have to match up and make sure, okay, if 4 is my y2, x has got to be 2 is going to be my x2, and then 5 is going to be my x1, right? You can choose another pair if you want to. So my 4 minus 2, or my 4, excuse me, 4 minus 11, we're looking up and down here to find that, and then it's going to be my 2 minus 5. And that's going to be my x2 minus my x1. If you wanted to flip these, if you wanted to do this, 11 minus 4, 5 minus 2, guess what? You get the exact same answer. So this is going to be negative 7 over negative 3. The two negatives cancel out, so that's going to be 7/3. And that's exactly what this is, 7/3. So it doesn't really matter which set you use, as long as you use them correctly. So our slope is 7/3. Now, how do we find our y-intercept? Normally, there's a graph, and we can simply see where the line crosses the y-axis. So the y-intercept right here is this is what happens if x is 0. So if x equals 0, well, then it doesn't matter what the slope is, right? Because that's going to equal 0, and then you're going to get your y equals b. And that's how we get our y-intercept, because when x is 0, wherever it crosses the y-axis, that's going to be our y-intercept. So we need to make x 0, but I don't have an x 0. It would land right here in my table. So let me bring this out here. Right, so if I got my x and y, so I've got my negative 1 and my negative 3. I want to make my x 0, but if I continue the pattern, I can at least get my x's 2, because they've got that right there as 2 and 4. So I've got these two. So I need to find this x is 0 right here. So you know what? I'm going to move over 1 on the x. I'm going to add 1 to the x right there to kind of continue this pattern. So how do I change my y? Well, that's what your slope is, right? The slope shows you how you change in the y every time you change in the x. So I want to change the x1, right? So I need to add this 7/3. So if we look at it as like a number line here, I've got my negative 3, then I'm going to add 7/3, which is really 2 1/3. So I'm going to jump over 1, jump over 2, I'm going to jump over 1/3. So that's going to leave me with negative 2/3 left. I'm not all the way quite back to 0. So that is going to be my y-intercept, negative 2/3.